Hello and welcome to day 3 of Collaborate Virtual, the free online installment of our annual conference, Collaborate. First of all, I'd just like to say a huge thanks to all of our speakers who have already presented, and also our sponsors, CX by Design and Balsamic. Today, we've got a fantastic day of talks and interviews, including Microsoft's Angela Hooker and Sophie Dennis, Director of Human-Centered Design and Customer Experience at the Department of Health and Social Care. They're both speaking this afternoon. There's still time to sign up, so head on over to the Collaborate website or Eventbrite and grab your free pass there. First up this morning, however, we have James Castro-Griffiths, Senior Product Designer at Elvie, with his talk, Emotive Design, How to Design Loved Products. In this talk, James takes a look at the impact emotions play in design, so you can create intuitive and engaging experiences that you loved working on. As always, please say hello in the chat. Just make sure your chat settings are switched to panelists and attendees, and that way everyone can see your messages. Do let us know there if there's any issues with the stream too. Also, please do ask lots of questions and submit them using the Q&A function, and I'll get through as many with James as I can at the end. We are using auto-generated captions for this webinar, and whilst some of them might not be 100% accurate live, when we post this video publicly, we will ensure they are 100% accurate. So yeah, without further ado, I will hand over to James.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. So, when you get lost in the zone, you're in that flow state and you're just moving from one idea to the next, and you're creating these really amazing, satisfying experiences that will benefit someone's life. It's, for me, one of the best feelings in the world. Oh no, there we go. One of the best feelings in the world. It makes you feel like I'm on top of a mountain. But sometimes standard, traditional kind of business operation pressures can kind of take away some of that spark with terms like minimal viable product, MVP, because there's more of an onus, it seems at times, on how quickly something can get out the door and therefore how functional it can become, as opposed to the experiential engagement, and that can include the emotional spark that people feel. It isn't necessarily seen with the same weight of importance, which is kind of confusing, because the idea, I guess, is for companies to build engagement with their customers through a long period of time where they can come back and forth and build this relationship where they want to share it, where this product, this service aligns to their life. And without that, it kind of like, what's kind of really the point in doing it? And that can be frustrating, confusing. It can kind of leave you feeling a bit apathetic to what's kind of the next thing to do, because that as designers, we have that gut feeling. And I think a lot of people in all projects, regardless of being designers, have that gut feeling of, I think people really love this, or I don't know if people get this, or I don't know if it's going to be that appropriate or emotionally appropriate for them. And if that's not really engaged, then as designers, it can leave us feeling a bit like, what are we kind of here for? Are we really trying to create at the end of the day? And I empathize with that, because I've experienced that. I've been in a range of companies, and I think I can see why there's a bit of a imbalance. Some companies fully go into the whole speed of output and functional, and some kind of have a bit of a better balance where it comes to, let's think about the emotional engagement and the experience. And there's a need to do that, because that's really what creates that impact with people. So as Henry's kind of said, I'm James Castor-Griffiths, a senior digital product designer at Elvie. In this presentation, I'll be going through a way to understand, hopefully explain to you guys how basically we can create these emotionally appropriate and really impactful, engaging experiences if we understand, and I guess have an ability to explain to others around us the importance of the emotive spark that is inside all of us, so we can still build really functional products that are kind of meet pace and can get out the door, but also incorporating and really understanding that the emotive side of it is as important, maybe even more in some products and services. So what is emotive design? So Interaction Design Foundation states that emotive design strives to create products that elicit appropriate emotions in order to create a positive experience for the user. Emotions play a central role in the human ability to understand and learn about the world. Positive experiences kindle our curiosity, and negative ones protect us from repeating mistakes. Put simply, I kind of see it as we don't, as people, buy necessarily exactly what a product does in terms of its function. We buy the emotion that we're looking to feel satisfied in. So I've spent the last, I think, 3 years now kind of studying, reading up with a load of amazing authors. These are some of my favorite books. And I've been fortunate enough to go to 2 training sessions, working with clinical psychologists, one with the D&AD and one with Bunnyfoot. They've allowed me to really understand how we think, we feel, how our emotions lead to our behaviors, and especially repeat behaviors, and how that actually starts to affect everything we should be doing in design. Everything that we are seeing as why someone's doing something comes from an emotional standpoint. I've also been super, super lucky to be able to work with some amazing colleagues and peers who've been kind enough to help create frameworks with me, understand some of the challenges, the issues around researching something as sometimes fluffy as emotion and turn it into something that's a bit more solid that can be explained to business. And yeah, it's given me that ability to get in the zone, to get in that flow state, and it's really enthused me, and I'm super excited to be able to share it with you guys today. So in this presentation, I'll, like I said, be going through how to understand how emotions cause our behavior and therefore cause our experience. And I've broken it down into 3 pillars. So there's the biological, the philosophical, and the physical. So to start off with the physical, so we have the brain, super amazing piece of kit. It's evolved with us through time, and it's not a completely linear process, but for the case of this presentation, let's kind of say it is. So we have the cerebellum in the back of the brain. That's the fight, flight, or freeze. So that's the lizard part of our brain. So that's the first bit. So that's the instant reaction we have to something. We then have the limbic system right in the middle of the brain. That has the amygdala at its core. That's kind of our emotional kind of center. That's the mammalian brain. So that's how we can emote with other people. That's when we see baby monkeys and stuff pulling those like really cute faces. That's why we can feel there's a connection, like it feels so human, because we all share that same part. And then we have the neocortex, which is the most evolved part of our brain, which is the rational part. In all honesty, it's post-rational. We are just reacting and then emoting towards it. And then we try and figure out why I did that, why we do that. And that's how we think, that's how we feel, that's how we experience the world around us. So Dr. Steve Peters, psychologist who helped the Olympic cycling team, like amazing book as well, if you can get a chance to read it. He asks us to think of the brain kind of 2 parts with a bit of a dichotomy between them. So we have the emotional side of us. We can imagine it as a chimp. It's wild, it's impulsive, it's emotional, it's irresponsible in all honesty. And we have the human. So that's the neocortex, that outer bit there, the most evolved part of us. And that is composed, rational, logical, and responsible. So chimps in the real world are 2 times stronger, maybe more than humans. You'd never tell a chimp, even if you could talk to them, you'd never tell a chimp what to do. It's just going to do what it's going to do, and it has all the power to do it. Now, the human is responsible for the chimp, that dichotomy in us, it's responsible for the chimp, but it can never force the chimp to do anything, our emotions to do anything. It's just going to do that, it's just going to react to the world. But with some kind of understanding the emotional psychology, we have the ability to lead a trail of bananas and mangoes to a happy, healthy place for the chimp to go to. Again, we're not going to yank it over there. We're going to lead a happy path to that. So as an example, the other day, I'm driving down the motorway and a car comes screaming out of the junction and slam my brakes on. I think so does everyone else around me. And I just feel my heart pounding. So that's my fight, flight, or freeze, just saving my life. That's the cerebellum saving my life. And then I just feel this heat kind of wash over me as I look at my knuckles and they're turning white on the steering wheel. And the car's already gone. My knuckles turning white on the steering wheel. And my heart is like beating out my mouth. I just want to scream through the windshield. I'm not thinking about doing any of this. This is just a reaction. And that's the emotional part of us. That's the chimp reacting. It's trying to sear an emotional memory into our brain, into my brain, to make sure that this never happens again, because this is bloody terrifying. And then at that point, my human, the neocortex, kind of comes in and goes, I've kind of experienced this feeling before. I've experienced this kind of fear reaction before. This can go really bad. So let's try and take a deep breath. Let's try and calm things down. I kind of use some positive coercion, like, wow, you reacted really quickly. Not a lot of people could react that quickly. You might have saved some lives. Let's kind of like see some of the wins here, just try and calm things down. And that's kind of what I try to do. As I pull into the car park at work, again, I take some deep breaths. I try to calm myself down because I don't want to ruin the rest of my day. I don't want to be snotty with anyone. I don't want to be stuck in my head. I don't want my work to suffer for it. I want to feel calm. I don't want this little thing to control the rest of my day. I mean, in all honesty, at that point, I kind of say, well, why don't we get a pan of raisin from the cafeteria? Why don't we treat ourselves? So I'm using positive coercion. I'm using a little bit of manipulation at time to try to get myself to a happier place rather than ruin the entire day, the entire journey. And that's what we need to do when we are designing. We're not designing for rational, just beings, creatures, because in all honesty, we're not. We just feel before we do anything else. Then we try to figure out why we felt that at the same time as dealing with it. And that's the case with our customers, our product audience. When they're going through a journey or any experience we design for them, we need to make sure that we know through research, like quality research, where the pitfalls could be that could lead them to spiraling down to a negative path, whether it's some legalese that we have to show, but it causes them to get lost in their head and cause self-doubt. I think for a lot of us who've been in research sessions and hearing how people feel and seeing how they slump their body and change their reaction, we can really empathize with and understand when they say things, oh, I can't do this, or I can't do these things. The same can be said for when people get giddy and too excited. We've not given the most emotionally appropriate experience, that moment in time that allows them to get to that happy place, that happy path. Because we aren't really designing for the rational part. We're designing for the chimp because they hold ultimately all the power of decision and of experience. So the second pillar, so philosophical. So Professor Paul Dolan, who is an behavioral economist, he asks us in a very similar dichotomy with the chimp and the human. He asks us to think of things as a balance scale between pleasure and purpose, where pleasure is instant gratification. It is saying, sod it, I'm going to go out for drinks tonight. It's getting that extra bit of fast food. It's that extra slice of cake. It's that thing that makes us feel alive in the moment, that puts a massive smile on our face, even if it's just for a little bit. And it makes us kind of go, yeah, this is good, because we need that. But then we also need purpose. So purpose is delayed gratification. That's moving through a period of time knowing I'm going to work hard to get to that thing down the line. So if that's physical conditioning and training, you're waking up every morning, you're not having that extra slice of cake, you're not having that donut every now and again, you know that little bit of struggle, that little bit of suffering is really going to help you get to that thing you want to get to at the end. And that's where that rush of gratification kind of comes from. So another example of this, I think she's even watching today. So my partner, Sarah, and I really love to travel. And I'm more of the kind of purpose engine, the more purpose side of things. That involves me zooming in and out of Google, finding as many hidden spots, beaches, forests, like villages, because I want to build the best possible holiday that we can have together. And because I want to have the best memories that we can have as well, just like to carry with us. And the downside is that ends up with me making an itinerary pretty much hour by hour of our entire vacation, our entire holiday, which leaves zero space for spontaneity and moments of just pleasure and enjoyment that just feels just spontaneous and in the moment. Whereas Sarah, on the other hand, has a much better balance, in all honesty. She has the things that she really wants to do. She makes time to factor them all in, but she doesn't cram pack the schedule. She makes it light enough so there's just brevity, so it can have that fluidity of experiencing the moment, whether it's just staying in a coffee shop, chatting to someone a bit longer that we've just met. Or one of my favorite memories, honestly, was our first holiday to Madeira, where she encouraged us to stay at this little fishing village. And we just happened to see a festival built up suddenly around us fairly spontaneously. And that's in my memory more than the things that I planned so much. And that's the case when it comes to our designs too. We need to make sure that we have a purpose. They've come to us for a thing that they want to achieve, whether that's the emotion, whether that's a function. We need to make sure that we're telling them that we'll get you there, and we're reminding them the entire way through, if not customizing the experience to get them to where they want to get to. But we can't neglect the fact that we need to leave space to have pleasurable moments, whether that's illustrations, animations, quality photography, videography, interaction, the complete IA and user experience of how they navigate and experience the entire service product needs to be considered. And that only happens when we get a balance. And that's how we create really meaningful experiences, because we have purpose and pleasure. And if we multiply that time and time again with every single interaction they have when they come back to us, our product audience, that's how we create really meaningful designed experiences. Because an experience without purpose or pleasure just feels hollow. Like what's the point in that? And the experience without either just doesn't feel right. It feels off. We create healthy experiences by setting purpose and having moments of pleasure along the way. So third pillar now. So this is the physical. So Professor Donald Norman, which probably doesn't need much explanation apart from, I think he's hailed as the godfather of UX. He asks us to think of the emotional experience in three kind of stages. So the first one being visceral, attractiveness, pre-conscious, initial impressions, feelings. So as an example again, I've recently bought a new phone, and as I unbox this phone, I'm like unconsciously assessing it. I'm thinking, how much does it weigh? Does it feel of quality? Look at the color. How does it even smell? Well, I'm sniffing my phone, but how does it smell? Like everything I'm trying to say, does that seem like the price I paid for? Does that seem right? Like, is this a product of quality that I've clearly invested in? Then I move into the behavioral stage. So I'm already thinking, this kind of seems like a quality phone. I move into the behavioral stage where I go, well, I'll see how it functions then. Let's see if it actually does the job. I'm looking for usability, product function, performance, and effectiveness of use. So I turn it on, I switch on the camera because I'm super into my photography, switch on the camera and take a couple of photos, put it into edit, and it's really amazing. Like, again, as someone who's massive into photos, this being near DSLR quality means I don't have to carry a massive camera with me every day. I get to just have this in my pocket. I'm that much closer to being very confident to keep this with me all the time, to maybe even leave some stuff behind, because this is behaving so well and it's acknowledging my level of quality I was pre-imagining in the visceral level. So my visceral unconscious has now been confirmed by my behavioral subconscious. And then the final level is reflective. So the reflective level is the only conscious level. That's when we start to go, what's the meaning of the product, the impact of the thought, sharing the experience, cultural meaning. This is where I kind of go, this phone's really cool. I can leave my other camera at home. I can I can share this on Instagram. This might give me some likes. This is quite cool. I can save this on my hard drive. Like, this will make some amazing memories for me. And that's when I cement it in this place. If I've managed to go through these 3 stages, that's when I go, this thing in my pocket happily lives there every single day, because this quality has been built through time, through this experience throughout. And as I'm sure you're starting to see, that we affect perception by influencing the unconscious and validating the imagination. If you want to make someone go, that thing's good, we need to make sure that we are acknowledging and designing for the subconscious, the unconscious, the chimp, the pleasure, the purpose, the things that we are all intrinsically just intuiting behind the scenes beyond the rational. And hopefully you can see, like I've just said, how everything starts to mix together, whether it's the biological side of things, the philosophical side of things, and the physical. There's an underlying tone that there's this unconscious level that we need to design for. So Donald Norman puts this into a bit of a hierarchy of experiences that we have. So we have at the very ground level, the might, desirable, initially attractive. That's when you get a spark, when you're going to go, oh, that looks cool, and you want to pick it up. So it needs to have that spark, whatever product or service we're creating, needs to excite enough to kind of go, I want to pick that up. Then the next level is can. So that is something that's usable, functional, viable. So it can work, it functions, it does what I need it to. It's enough of a spark to pick it up and it functions. We then have will. So that's compelling, persuasive, and trustful. And this is where a lot of really brilliant UX gets to, really solid. They've got all their component libraries, all their principles, their content strategy, everything done. That's where a lot of phenomenal UX kind of gets to currently, where it's the will. Or maybe even near the can stage, where it's a bit functional. Again, they haven't got necessary to build trust, that does the job, but that's kind of where a lot of UX currently sits. But if everyone's there, like, how does anyone really stand out? And that's where this emotive level comes from in love, where it's engaging, intuitive, and emotionally appropriate, where people can't help but go, this product can just live in my life forever. I'm not thinking twice about it. In fact, I'm telling everyone about this device. I can't help but share it. I'm basically a marketing scheme because I love this product so, so much. And that's how we basically create delight, any appropriate emotion to what we're trying to get our customers to feel, whatever they're coming to us to experience. It doesn't necessarily have to be delight. It can be whatever is emotionally appropriate. And that's how we basically grow it through time, through the levels. We have to make sure that we are building on the next level. Again, we have to have it be a functional thing. Otherwise, that causes frustration and emotion. But can't neglect that top level, which is love, that emotive one. So what does great emotive design look like? What's the kind of tippy top in terms of companies and products that are really creating that? Well, some obvious ones, Spotify. So for a lot of you, and including myself, Spotify is my music player of choice. Music to me has always been a way to access emotions. Different artists, different genres, different albums make me feel different things. And the ability to select anything ever at the click of a button is obviously something I can't live without. And where I used to be the iPod fanboy, the iPod Nano was my device of choice. I had every generation, I love that thing. But as soon as they had the ability to have every type of music available, it was an emotive thing that made me kind of go, I'm just gonna go for that. And it's the thing that's made me stay with it, is the fact that with my progressive investment, they learn about me, they know about me. So whether I'm feeling like surprised or sensual or confident or envious or just nostalgic, they have something predefined for me. I don't even really use the search feature. I just use the playlist they create, and I find brand new artists because of that. And that was never more clear than, and I'm really sorry to say this if Sarah's watching, no judgment, but the other weekend, I went down to Pembrokeshire for Sarah's birthday weekend. And for whatever reason, and again, no judgment, she wants to listen to James Blunt for the 3-hour journey. Now, nothing against James Blunt. He isn't necessarily my choice or feel represents me, but it's a birthday. We're going to listen to whatever she wants to listen to. And I already have that pang, which I'm sure a lot of you feel, which is like, how is this going to affect my daily mixes? And lo and behold, Daily Mix 5 has James Blunt's face plastered on the front. Now I got to listen to a bit of James Blunt on my Daily Mix 5, along with other James Blunty type of music for maybe a week. It's a sacrifice and I'm happy to endure, but it showed I have so much investment to how this aligns to my tastes, my likes. And I think a lot of you would feel the same way when you hand over your phone for a week, say, and someone's going to listen to their playlists, their choice of artists, how it's going to affect your playlists. It has an emotive reaction for us. And that shows the investment. And that shows why I am less likely to go to Tidal, why I'm less likely to go just to my iPod, why I'm less likely to go to any other music service, because I feel like Spotify knows me and the emotions I want to feel with this. They're like a DJ. They are in the world of trying to create experiences for a room by understanding them. Now, my tippy top, like absolute best example of emotive design is Headspace. So a few years ago, someone very close to me passed away, and I was just emotionally wrecked. Didn't know what to do, still trying to figure out how do I work, how do I kind of be normal, just trying to find space in my head so I can have a feeling of calm. Now, I use Headspace sporadically for some years beforehand, and in my kind of search for how do I get that sense of calm and contentment, I just thought, well, maybe I'll use Headspace. So I re-downloaded the app, opened it up, and I'd seen they'd done so much investment in creating more emotive experiences. The first one being they set purpose. They asked me, well, why are you coming to us? What's the thing you want to achieve? And I was like, well, just typed in bereavement, thinking, what's that really going to do? It's just an input field, just bereavement. They've since gone on to check and ask me, how am I doing moving towards feeling kind of more at peace with things? How am I going to feel more at peace with my bereavement I'm experiencing? That's made me feel like I've been, like, in some small way, kind of listened to, kind of heard. The next thing is mindfulness and meditation is, for people who haven't done it before, is a bit of a unknown area where you have some concepts like body scanning. Imagining, if you've done this before, imagine that spot of light and letting it grow around you and trying to encompass everyone around you so you can feel warmth and love from everything and everyone around you and for everyone around you. These are kind of a bit fluffy, but they have amazingly simple and engaging videos that break it down, that are really emotionally accessible for this thing that seemed like a bit of a hump to kind of get over, to understand. They just make it a smooth sailing, just showing these like monster characters and these monkeys and stuff, funny enough, kind of like chimping out and doing that big emotive reaction, trying to not be distracted. They explain it to you. And one of the best things I found is they've added this 3-minute SOS. So say you are struggling, so you are having a bit of a panic attack, you can just open up the app, within 2 clicks, open up a 3-minute SOS, and you just do some breathing techniques that just centers you, brings you back in the moment. They offer so many things that allow you to kind of go, I'm feeling an emotion and I'm looking to understand it. I'm looking to have some contentment and peace with it. And they've thought about all the ways that we do emote, all the things that we do experience, and they look to offer something that gives that back, that lets you feel rested, neutral, and calm. So you get that feeling of being peaceful, composed, and also belonging. They let you do live meditations with strangers anonymously, where you can feel like you're participating in something. So if you are feeling a bit low and lonely, especially during these COVID times, you have the ability to just log on and just be part of something, even if it's just quietly, even if it's just passively. They figured out the right level of emotional appropriateness for a live meditation. And onto physical products. So in the world of breastfeeding, can't neglect it as working with Elvie now. In the world of breastfeeding, for about the last, I think, 100+ years, even since electricity's kind of become pretty prevalent, breast pumps have pretty much been the same thing. And they've been incredibly functional. Like, they've done exactly what they need to do. They've collected breast milk so that women can feed their child not directly from themselves. So some of the most popular products have been these big kind of beige bras that have these suction cups that attach to the nipples that then have two kind of containers that collect the breast milk. They then have two tubes that go to a box. It's about this size, with the size of your baby. And that makes this kind of techno noise that you definitely can't sleep through, pretty much can't watch TV or have a conversation with. And that box then has a long cord that gets plugged into the wall. So you're pretty strapped in, plugged in, being milked, doing a really functional job, doing an amazing job, but it's not really considering the emotion. But that's where products like the Elvie pump are so different. They offer that same level of function, but it's not tied to a wall. The pump, practically silent. It slips inside of any bra you have existing. It allows you full freedom of motion, pretty much. And the thing can be kind of like checked on from an app. So you don't have to keep taking it in and out. You can see how much you've been able to express. At a time when women could possibly be feeling a bit like they've lost a bit of their freedom, a bit of their autonomy. The Elvie pump and other pumps like it offer a little bit of that emotion back because it understands that that's what people are wanting more than the function. They're coming to it saying, I kind of want to express milk so that I can go off and do stuff and maybe someone else can feed the baby. It's understanding that and designing around the emotion as opposed to simply just the function and maximizing that. So you get that freedom, you get that empowerment, and you get that confidence. And that's pretty much what emotive design really is. We're trying to experience the world. We are experiencing the world through our emotions, and we are trying as designers to create emotionally appropriate experiences that make people feel good, something that feels appropriate to what they're trying to achieve. And we do that by researching, by really listening, by really trying to understand what is the emotion that someone is trying to experience and designing a function that's built around that, designing a product or a service that is around that. Because we don't buy what a product does, we buy how it makes us feel. And that's why we make it emotive. That's why we really work to make an emotive product. Thank you. And a very big thank you to everyone who's helped me along this way over the last 3 years, who've helped me kind of shape frameworks and design new ways of capturing emotion and understanding it. Yeah, really big thank you. And as a little PS, before I hand over quickly, Henry, there are some Medium articles I've written. So hopefully this presentation has been able to kind of give you an understanding so you can kind of explain that gut feeling of, I feel like people want this. Hopefully this presentation has been able to give you that. These Medium articles will hopefully give you a step-by-step of how you can practice that. So how can you research emotion in a project? And how can you write emotive briefs? How can you establish it? Hopefully it gives you that actionable step-by-step. So yeah, just put my name into Medium, hopefully you'll find my page and you can kind of start practicing. So yeah, thank you again.
Awesome, thanks, James. What an awesome talk. Yeah, I loved the contrast of pleasure and purpose that you spoke about, and the different pillars of emotive design too. Thanks everyone watching. If anyone has any questions, please do submit them now. I can see some comments coming in. Effie, my heart goes out to you, having Baby Shark invade your Spotify algorithm. So we've got a question here from Sylvia. Sylvia asks, she'd just like to know if you've got any comments on kind of why it's so difficult to choose kind of the worst option out of 3 product offers, if the product offers 3 versions, for example, Samsung, Samsung Plus, and Samsung Ultra. Yeah, she says, I personally struggle with this, and no, it's a selling strategy that they use, but is that it? Yeah, do you have any kind of comment on that, James?
Can you say that first part again, just so I can?
Yes, so just finding out, you know, why it's difficult to choose the worst option out of 3. You know, if a product offers 3 products in 3 different versions, for example.
Yeah. why it's difficult to choose the worst option. Well, I guess part of choosing, so I hope I get this right. So I guess part of choosing, like Apple, every phone company is offering a range of options these days so they can figure out the right standpoint in terms of people's prices, I imagine. There will always kind of be a worst option, and there'll be a better option. I guess it comes down to affordability. And I think that that's a manipulation kind of tactic. Choosing the worst option, I guess, will always be difficult when there is something better that you can see, possibly because the feeling of, I don't want to go for the worst thing. Doesn't feel nice to choose the worst thing, especially for a device like a phone, because it aligns to our life. We use it every day. If we choose what would be the worst option phone, we kind of be going, well, can I only get the worst option? Does my life now get to have the worst functionality because of it? I think we strive to have the best for ourselves. And I think that if we have to settle for something that feels less, we really can't hide from that. We really feel that. And I think that's the case with our choices. There will always be, especially of three, there will always be something that's a worst option. It will always be a bit subjective. But when there's things like the functionality and offering it gives us, and like I was saying before, how it aligns to our life and the behaviors that we get to have with it, it'll make us feel like, oh, I'm missing out. Oh, I know I could have better if only. I think it's that fear of missing out in a way. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. I think George actually touched on something similar in our talk yesterday, kind of around kind of anchoring. I think that kind of comes into it as well, I think. So the next question here is from Simon. Simon asks, what's the number one thing you would recommend that people can do to include the emotional perspective? Kind of, I'm guessing this is kind of from a designer's perspective.
Very, very good question. The number one thing I'd say is probably research. For me, at least, research underpins everything. The ability to know by really observing someone, and especially if you can get a lot of people, how they feel, and because it's unconscious, how they feel, how they're reacting, how they're kind of like emoting about things, will help everyone in the team just kind of go, yeah, everyone's acting this very certain way with this very certain thing. And we need to make sure that we are like acknowledging what that is, rather than go, well, they clicked on it, well, they did it, like technically they read it, so let's move on. It's kind of going, yeah, but everyone really tense at this point in time. If you can figure that bit out, and everyone can kind of go, cool, well, do we do something about that? Do we not do something about that? That helps lead lots of conversations. And it helps if everyone kind of like understand the importance of looking at emotion, because then they can kind of go, that can't be neglected. Otherwise, if we have loads of these things throughout a journey, we're actually creating a crap journey. Even if it's very functional, they can get to the end, like they're very unhappy the entire time, or their happiness is kind of dipping as they kind of go through, or their unhealthy emotions, not unhappiness, unhealthy emotions are becoming more prevalent as they go through. So I'd say research first, and then I'd say, if you can, write emotion into the brief. Make sure that once you figure out what they want to feel on average, make sure that you kind of go, we are going to like all agreeing to try to figure out ways to do this. And this crops up in subtle ways, whether it's color palette, tone of voice and content, or just how someone like goes through the functionality of something, making sure that it's being designed from the very beginning really, really will help someone adding up through all of these pieces kind of go, I love that. That was really good. Mate, do you want to have a look at this? This is really good. Like, that's how you make that happen. So yeah, research, writing it from the start.
Awesome, thank you. I think it's a great answer. And then and you kind of touched on this as well in that answer, but I don't know if you've got anything else you'd like to say. Simon kind of also asked kind of how can a team best collaborate around the kind of around the application of emotion and ensure kind of teams are considering it.
No, again, very good question. I'd say, so personally, my view is that as many people as possible, whatever craft and discipline they're in, be involved in the research, be involved in setting out the vision of what the product or service is going to be, so that everyone is on the same page of what they're trying to create. So it's together, rather than one person being like the one banging the wall saying like, make sure you think about emotion. You want to make sure that everyone is on the same page. In the same way as you write user requirements, you kind of go, well, a user requirement is going to be, they want to have that emotion kind of satisfied. So making it sure that everyone feels that they are a part of that thing, that vision, and that emotion is part of it, I think will really help build a cohesive team, build it around a vision of people are looking for this. How do we create that? And it's not just a function, it's the emotion.
Awesome, thank you. That's a great answer. So we've got a question here from Natalie. Natalie asks, I was wondering what you think about the way addictive and emotive design can hook us on experiences that are maybe not good for us, kind of using emotional coercion, as you put it, to persuade us to buy something or engage with an experience against our interests or those of the planet or society. For example, the dopamine hit we all now get from social media notifications. Basically, she says, how do we make sure your emotive design secrets don't fall into the wrong hands?
That is, I was really hoping someone was going to ask that. So the 2 training sessions I went to, that was the #1 thing they said, like, we're giving you these tools, but they could be used to kind of like destroy the world, make people very unhappy. They can be used in a very manipulative way. And I think in the same with accessibility, it's being emotionally appropriate, it's being sure and documenting. And I hope down the line that they establish practices to show evidence to, are you creating an emotionally appropriate experience? You've researched and said that people like can't read this, can't understand this. Are you making sure that people aren't being manipulated by this? I hope that comes out in the future. But for right now, I'd say being able to understand it and making sure that people have the heart 100% in the right place and they're holding each other accountable makes us go, let's not put another red circle with a number next to something so they always have to kind of trigger to kind of come back to it. Let's make sure that we are understanding that these things, all these products and services are tools. We don't want to make people reactively addicted to them. In the same way that people think of Instagram and Facebook as, this represents me, this represents my worth. That's like the darker side of social media. There's the lighter side of social media, which is it's a tool. I've got a business I'm trying to build. I'm trying to make people just see the content I'm trying to put out there. I'm an interested photographer and I want people to be inspired by me and I want to be inspired by others. It's the motive behind what it's going to do. And that creates all these little things. As we can see with Instagram, for example, they're being pressured to kind of think about this stuff and they're removing the number of likes you can see per kind of like image you upload so that you aren't being triggered by, sweet, this got 54. Oh no, this got like only 10. What did I do wrong? Like those are manipulative things. And I think that people, like especially the big companies, are being forced to think about that. And I hope practices come to place that make us have to follow like the same way we do accessibility, like reports of make sure you do these things. I hope down the line, because that's kind of the future I see. I'm rambling now. That's kind of the future I see for emotional design, because with things becoming more automated, more algorithmic, more AI, the thing that's really going to stand out in the future, because we're still going to be humans, we're still going to be designing for humans unless the robot overlords take over. We're still going to be designing for humans. We're going to have to make sure that we're being emotionally appropriate, because that's where everyone's going to be competing. If everyone's offering that same function, if everyone's being manipulative, all it takes is a great company like Headspace that don't use tools that manipulate you, but actually use tools to make you come to them, kind of go, sweet, I need to do something, like a hammer and nail. I need to do something. It satisfied that emotion. I can put it down without going, oh God, I can't live without this thing. I think that's where we kind of develop that nuance. It's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take all of us doing a lot of work into it. But I think understanding it to begin with helps us shape these conversations and makes it become less awful.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's a great answer. No, and I think, I think that's really interesting what you said about kind of, AI and, it's going to have, the competition is going to be on the human side of things.
That's why UX is already coming through such a powerful thing now, where we have a lot of functional stuff that people are going, well, if we just hire this team, they can really understand why people are doing something. I guess what I'm saying with emotion design is, well, it's the emotion, that's the why, really. We're just post-rationalizing afterwards just because they can read it.
Absolutely. Great answer. We've got a question here from Effie. Hi, Effie. Effie asks, how about the other side of the coin? How do we design for muting emotion? For example, for people that have experienced trauma, and we'd like to support them by avoiding reawakening that through the experiences we design.
That is a fantastic question. Thank you so much for asking that. So I think one of the big things that really, when I have talked about emotive design, one of the things I hear is like, why are we always designing for delight? It doesn't always have to be delight. 100% agree. I think we need to design for the most emotionally appropriate experience. As an example, a few years ago, our very, very old, happy long life family dog, Cassie, passed away. And I've been paying for a subscription service for her food, and delivered like every month, big load of food. And when she passed away, everything's a bit sad. I go on to, it was tails.com, really recommend them, tails.com. So I went onto my account, looked to unsubscribe, simple button that just said, has your dog passed away? Yeah. Stripped everything back. No illustrations, no big animations, no big interaction, very black and white, saying, we are so sorry. This must be so difficult for you. Everything's done. No more needs to be done. They send me a confirmation email, all done. Could have been difficult, could have been so many things, but they figured out the exact point and likelihood that people will be unsubscribing. It's going to be an option that they'll be unsubscribing. And they were like, how do we be emotionally appropriate? Do you do a little illustration with a little grave for your dog? No, that's not emotionally appropriate. You kind of go, well, that's the wrong thing, but what is the right thing? Stripping it back. I think that would be the case when someone's going through a traumatic experience and they could possibly be reliving something. It's kind of acknowledging that, saying it isn't always going to be the happiest journey for a lot of people. If we have the ability through a simple button or a simple option to kind of go, this isn't actually the best day of my life right now, I'm not having a happy path, we then have the ability to create a journey that is emotionally appropriate. I mean, I'm telling you all on a conference like about tails.com from something that happened 2 years ago. Emotionally appropriate made me want to share it with you guys. I've told other people about it who have dogs, and it's just the smallest thing. I think we build that trust, we build that want to share something even when it's a sad time. We built that appropriateness by just really researching and understanding what are the likely feelings people have right now, and kind of designing for that, whether that's trauma, bereavement, sadness. It doesn't always have to be happy, it just has to be emotionally appropriate.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that phrase emotionally appropriate is so important, I think. So yeah, we've got time for just about one more. So question here from Charlie. He says, they say, great talk, James. I wonder if emotions can sometimes be almost too personal and ephemeral to rely on as the sole input to architect experiences from. But combined with things like jobs to be done, using emotion as a lens to enhance or amplify brand experiences can be really powerful. What do you think about that?
Massively. I was having a chat with someone about jobs to be done, and I hadn't heard of it before that point. And I really did get really excited because I was like, this sounds like a lot of, as I'm trying to build out this emotive design thing and try to figure out like ways it could be cemented into projects. But right, jobs to be done is an amazing way to kind of like weave that in. It adds weight, it adds clarity, and it's something we all experience. So I guess it's something that we can all connect with. But you're right, it can be kind of difficult, and it's ephemeral, it's elusive, it is difficult to fix down. And as I've said, everyone feels things in slightly different ways, and to be able to encompass everything is going to be tricky. There will be some averages there. I don't have all the answers for how to 100% get it covered, but hopefully this is enough to kind of like start doing it that way. But you're right, jobs to be done is something I am looking into and looking to kind of create a framework. Maybe that's another article I'll create, but looking to figure out how we write jobs to be done that has emotion in it.
Brilliant, thank you. Just in response to Sylvia's question, we will be sharing the recording afterwards. So yeah, we'll get that to you ASAP. That's just about all we have time for today. James, thank you so much. That was a great talk. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. To watch it, and thanks for everyone for their questions. Up next, we have Sophie Dennis with her session, The Layers of Collaboration, where she'll be speaking with Simon Norris to discuss the ins and outs of collaboration at individual, organizational, and inter-organizational level. Sign-ups are still open for that. That's taking place at 1 p.m. UK time. So yeah, head on over and grab your free pass for that. James, again, thank you very much. That was a fantastic talk. Yeah, we will be sharing the recording of that as soon as we can. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, man. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.